Yes, folks, it's Tales from the Jails with John G. Sutton, actually. That's me, by the way. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you would be so kind. It's down there, folks. And you'll see a link to my interviews with Sean Atwood and James English, and of course a link to my book. Now, I'm going to talk today about a new Act of Parliament. Well, it's an amendment to an Act of Parliament. It's the Sex Offenders Amendment Act 2023, which allows for disclosure of the inclusion of sex offenders onto the sex offenders register. It's called the Sex Offenders Risk Management, the Sex Offenders Risk Management, or SORM, which is what's been implemented, and it comes into force now. It will allow the Department of Justice what they say is extenuating circumstances for a disclosure of information relating to people on the sex offenders register, so that if there is a particularly dangerous or considered to be a particularly dangerous inmate, ex-inmate, sex offender being relocated into your area, they're going to advise the local public. This is extremely dangerous, in my personal opinion. I know that we should know if there are people in our community that are a danger, but the problem, I see it, is that there are members of the public who believe, for some reason, that they should take the law into their hands and make sure that people who are responsible for committing sexual offences against children, say, are punished not by the government or by the Department of Justice or the courts, but by themselves or some other vigilante mob. Extremely dangerous, because it then makes it impossible for anybody who's on the sex offending register to actually start to be rehabilitated. We previously discussed it here, that people who are sex offenders not going to be rehabilitated because they don't believe very often. I mean, and I have met numerous sex offenders, obviously, having worked in places like Wormwood Scrubs, Strangeways Jail, and on the hospital service in places like Ashworth, which is an institution for the criminally insane. There's a little story I got about sex offender, a really violent, probably one of the most notorious sex offenders in Britain over the last century, was Ian Brady. Now, when Ian Brady was being held in the hospital complex at Wormwood Scrubs, he was molesting, offending and sexually abusing younger prisoners by getting his friend Graham Young, the poisoner. He was known as the teapot poisoner, because he used to put paraquat and various other poisons into the tea at the place where he worked, and murdered about 4 people, seriously incapacitated numerous others, and generally did this because he was experimenting with poisons. He was acting as a lookout, like a guard for Ian Brady. And when they were in the hospital unit together at the Scrubs, if they got young Borstal boys in, then they would go into the bathroom and Ian Brady would follow them in alongside with Graham Young on the outside, acting as a guard, in case any of the staff came. And Brady would go in to follow the young boys and sexually abuse them. Once this was discovered, of course, and it was eventually discovered, Brady was relocated from the hospital unit into the segregation unit at Wormwood Scrubs, which is where I first met him, in a horrible, obnoxious, snivelling, little bastard he was. He didn't speak to staff. He thought he was superior to the prison staff. He would speak to the governor or a governor, but he wouldn't speak to uniformed officers. Kind of thought he was a superior being. Indeed, he wrote a book about that. It's called The Two Faces of Janus. If you look at that, I got a signed copy from Colin Wilson, the author Colin Wilson, who's famous for writing The Outsider. Colin Wilson wrote the foreword to the book for Ian Brady because he was corresponding with Brady until it became quite clear to Colin Wilson that Brady was using him as like, if Colin Wilson says my work's brilliant, then it must be. Because Colin Wilson is a known academic and a professor of English literature who lectured on a worldwide basis. Well, I knew Colin Wilson because I worked with him on one of his books called The Angry Years. You don't need to believe me, folks. Just go and have a look. My name's in there as the researcher. Oh, nice guy, Colin Wilson, but he didn't like Ian Brady at the end. And the book is actually an apologia. In other words, it's Ian Brady's way of explaining what a genius he is, and because he's such a genius, he stands outside the normal rules of society, which kind of allows him to conduct his disgraceful, horrible abuses and murders that he committed, because he's doing so effectively in the name of art. Now, if you believe that bullshit, you'll believe anything. Anyway, they're now today empowered. The Minister for Justice, called Helen Mcin, said these tough new laws will help us build stronger, safer communities and will strengthen our already robust system for monitoring sex offenders. Well, they didn't monitor Jimmy Savile too well, did they? And Keir Starmer, who is now the leader of the Labour Party, as you all know, was the head of the Crown Prosecution Service. And he had on his desk, I believe, from what I'm told, it's only what I'm told, approximately 75 different complaints against Jimmy Savile, and didn't authorise the prosecution of a single one of them. Now, why? If I was the Director of Public Prosecutions and I got one allegation, I'd look at it and think, well, if the evidence stacks up, go for it. Two, same thing. 75? I'm going to say there's something seriously wrong here. Go for it. Get him in court, stick it up there, let's test the evidence. Before a jury. No, Keir Starmer, ask him why. Boris Johnson already did, didn't he? And that didn't go down very well. Not that I'm a great Boris Johnson fan. He's spent the pandemic at party time, whilst all the rest of us were suffering from lockdown. Indeed, it was my 50th wedding anniversary. We had a big party planned, and the family were coming from all over the place. Of course, when they locked it down, nothing. All the people who celebrated my 50th anniversary was myself and my dear wife, Mary. Oh, I think our dog joined in as well, Toto. She had an extra special biscuit. But that was it. That was my 50th wedding anniversary. Yeah, no celebrations at all. Anyway, Boris celebrated for me. I should be thankful for that, shouldn't I? So anyway, that's today's Tales from the Jails. The Sex Offender Risk Assessment and Management Scheme is now in place, and there is an amendment to the Sex Offenders Act, which is now empowering the disclosure of individuals' names who are on the sex offenders list. And talking about sex offenders, I sent a little note to my former client, the artist PJ Proby. I sent him a little note yesterday. telling him that I'm including him in my forthcoming third volume, because the next volume of my books on prisons will end with what happened to me after I left Strange Ways. And one of the things that I did was write songs and record the artist PJ Proby. And of course, at the time, I didn't know that he was prone to interfering with little girls, which he tried when he was with me, and I immediately put a stop to that by reporting him to the duty social services officer in the town where the child was resident, and they did step in and they did stop it, but they didn't do anything else. And as far as I know, nobody has chattled PJ Proby on his affiliation with little children, other than the Daily Mail and the Mirror. They published a big feature. Look, don't take my word for it. Go on to Google and look it up. PJ Proby perversions, yeah? And you'll find that it takes you to an article in the Daily Mail or the Mirror, which is an interview with Proby in which he espouses the delights in dilly-dallying with 10 and 11-year-old girls. Seriously, that's how stupid and how perverted the man is. He thinks that it's okay to do that. And why he's not on the sex offenders list, I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to... That's a song dinger, folks, but it's not a song, it's a poem. Yeah, you like that, I know you will, won't you? Yeah, here we are. This is definitely one of my favourite poems by Walter Delamere. Silver. Slowly, silently, now the moon walks the night in her silver shoon. This way and that she peers and sees silver fruit upon silver trees. One by one the casements catch her beams beneath the silvery thatch. Couched in his kennel like a log, with paws of silver sleeps the dog. From their shadowy coat the white breasts peep of doves in a silver-feathered sleep. A harvest mouse goes scampering by, with silver claws and silver eye, and moveless fish in the water gleam, by silver reeds in a silver stream. Silver by Walter Delamere. I sincerely hope you enjoyed that. Tales from the Jails with John G. Sutton. And do like and subscribe. Thank you very much.